This is our demo one, so the demo on routes, and we'll be continuing off what we had last lecture, where we talked about routes. And I want to start the demo. It's kind of ruined, but I wanted to talk about Canvas being down. So does anyone know why Canvas is down today? AWS, exactly. And I don't know if you guys have like checked it when it was down, but you saw like the rocket ship error message. Who here knows for an egg what error code that was? No. No. Yeah. Nope, not 500. If it was still up, that's why I'm wishing it was still down so you guys can like find it, but any other guesses? Loki just count up from 500, 501, 500. No. Nope, not 5. How is everyone missing? 503. Yeah, exactly. So I have a screenshot here. Yeah. So if you look at the Canvas page when it was down, and you like, you know how you inspect element, like Control C, you can see it's a GET request to get all the stuff on the website, and it was a 503 service unavailable. So that's what 503 means. The error code, like 500 and above, usually is an internal error, which is your backend's fault. And in this case, 503 is service unavailable. Another issue was does anyone here know what Vercel is? Yeah, Vercel, like where you deploy stuff. Vercel was also down. And in this case, I got 504. So that's gateway timeout. It's like when you ask something on the back end and it takes too long to respond, so it just times out. That's 504. 500 is just a general internal server error, but I thought this was cool to show you guys like what error codes, because like today, for some reason, we had a lot of like error codes. Yeah. Also, if you guys are curious, for Neon is like this is essentially like hosting database for free. What? Is that me? Oh, this is my friend's calling me. My bad. Yep. Yeah, for Neon, this is like database hosting. You can see like the only one affected is actually our region. Like I have a database in like the UK area, and that was not affected. So AWS is just for some reason in our area, which is like nearest to North Virginia. Can you stop texting me, please?
That's just
What is it? This? Okay. Yeah. So only our area was affected. And yeah. Okay, that's it. So for today's demo, we're going through routes, and I wanted to start with like a short front end demo of what we're gonna build. So I built this like I have the completed demo code here. If we just hmm? Let's see. Remember, this was how you activate your virtual environment, source/vent bin activate. When I do that, I'm ready in here. And here I'm just gonna run, let me see the source first. I'm just going to the source folder, which I have here. If you see this folder, there's a source folder, and I'm gonna run complete app, which is what we're trying to build today. Python complete app. So now that's running. Just to give you a look of what we're building, this is what the backend looks like. That's the hello world. And then here we have tasks. Yeah. So today we're going to build something like this. We're going to build a to-do list app, basically. We're going to build the backend for a to-do list app. And just to visualize what that would look like, if I had what the heck? With the front end, I created a quick demo with Claude. So today we're going to build the anti-procrastinator. It's essentially like this is a to-do list app, basically, with a running backend. So I add the picture there so you can see every time I reload. If you have just the front end, and I added a task like, let's say like do ML homework, for example, I added there, it might only be like a front end change, right? If I reload, it might like disappear if it's only a front end. But to prove that it's connected to the back end, when I reload, you can see it's still there. And you can see the LeBron picture changes. I just set it to random. I have like a couple of pictures. So our system today will be a backend, connect, and this front end will connect to our backend, and it's persistent. You can see like it's not like a fake, just a front end project. And a few things we have here. I want to highlight what we learned yesterday. We learned about CRUD. We learned about get, put, update, right? We have post and we have delete. We're gonna use all of those here. So if I want to create a new one, I use a post request, which is to add a task like I did this now. If I want to like update, where's the update in this page? It's here. When I want to scratch out a task or like check a task and I can reload, it's still the same. The scratching of the task, that's not creating a new task, that's updating a certain task. That's two. Delete will like just delete a task. That's the delete. And for get, that's whatever you see here. We're getting all the tasks from our backend. So this is a good example of like all four, and we're gonna implement those today. Right. And I'm gonna close this. This is like the finished code. So now we're gonna implement it from scratch here. Okay. Take it away.
Yeah, so if you guys go on the textbook in chapter 1, you should have access to the demo starter code if you want to follow along. And it should open up to this file app.py. And if you haven't downloaded Postman, make sure to download that because we're going to be using that in this demo as well. So as you can see, we have a Flask application. And what is Flask? Flask is basically this lightweight Python web framework that helps you build websites and web applications really easily. So it provides you with the basic tools to handle things like URLs, web requests, and displaying pages. And it's just very beginner friendly, so it's pretty easy to pick up. So let me just um Okay, so I opened the terminal in VS Code and I just CD'd into SRC, and then to run this code, you can just do Python app.py.
I think this is Python, just don't without the three.
Oh, yeah, so it should run the application, and then this is Postman. So Postman is basically a way to test and debug all your routes. So if you have that downloaded, you can create a new collection, just like a blank collection. I can name this demo 1. And then I'm gonna add, okay, this is just like to test the very first endpoint that we have. So what I have highlighted is the first endpoint. So basically this app.route is the decorator. So this defines the endpoint. So you can see the endpoint is just a slash. So if I take this URL, the localhost URL, I think you should turn off your phone. And I just put a slash at the end. It should return hello world. If you can see there. Yeah, so you can see it returns hello world because why? Because under that app.route, we have a definition, hello world, of a function. So whenever that endpoint is called, that function, hello world, is called as well. And it's run, so it just returns hello world. So that's like the most basic endpoint. Yeah. So now to make our to-do app, since we don't know how to make an actual database for the moment, that's going to be next week's lecture. We're going to just hard code our data into our file. So I'm just going to create this dictionary. Oh my gosh. Um, oh goodness. Okay, so I'm just gonna make this dictionary, and if you don't know what a dictionary is, basically you have a key and a value. So right now our key would be just like the task ID, so just like 1, for example, and then the value would just be the task object. So we'd have the ID of the task, 1, the description, which is like stop progressing. And then done, which is equal to false, and then we can basically just make like another one of these. Yeah, and then now we can actually start implementing our routes. So we can like define.
You want me to turn it off?
Yeah, turn that.
Where is it? Yep.
Okay. So our different endpoints we're gonna do is get all tasks, create a task, get task by ID, um, update task, and delete task. So for our first endpoint, we're gonna add the decorators, so app.routes. And then this is where we define the endpoint. So the endpoint we're gonna use is just tasks with the slash at the end. Make sure to add the slash at the end.
No S. No route. Like
Oh yeah.
without that, yeah.
And then now we have to define the function that it'll call. So we can just name it get tasks. And then basically, since we don't have a database, we can just format these tasks and just return that basically. So we're gonna define a variable and then we're gonna make this basically a dictionary as well. So the key is called tasks and the value will just be the list of all the tasks. So we're gonna get the values of all the tasks here. So basically, tasks.values is getting all of the values in this top dictionary here. So each value here, this is one value, the first value, and then this is the second value. So it's basically getting all those values and then converting it into a list here. And then that's the value of our task key here. Does that make sense? So then now we just return this list of tasks or this response. So because Flask is returning a JSON response, we have to format it basically using JSON. So this um, function is called json.dumps, and then you should have imported JSON at the top if you haven't already for it to work, and then json.dumps, and inside you put the response. And now we have to put the status code, response code. Does anyone know what our response code would be? Yes. Yeah, 200. Um, yeah, so this is basically 200 saying that we successfully return all the tasks. So if we want to test this,
Okay, and just to jump in here, the JSON.dumps, we use that because HTTP, they will return they return text, they return string. So we want to return a JSON object, right? So JSON.dumps essentially takes in a JSON, like what we gave in there, like res, or like takes in a dictionary in this case, and converts it to a string version of it. So it's just turning into string. That's why we're using JSON.dumps.
yeah, okay, yes.
Can I just ask, like, what's the difference between JSON.dumps and just Sonify? Like, you know, the function just like JSON.
Oh, this one, you mean?
Yeah.
It like does the same thing, but in this course we just use JSON not dumps.
What is the difference? I'm not sure.
Wait, it's basically the same thing. So to test this, we're gonna make this request like get tasks. We're gonna name that, and then you can see here our endpoint would be tasks slash, and then we can see that. And then if we send that, you can see our response code is 200. That means it was successful. And then if you kind of want to see this better, you can change it to the JSON view. And then you can see that it outputs the tasks in a nice manner so you can see them clearly. So yeah, that works. We can move on to creating a task. Does someone have any questions? Yes.
Yeah, you like define like the dictionary, can that be anywhere, or does it like for example, if you put tasks before the like tasks row, but after the like the basic row, like could it be referenced above, or is it like regular Python, just like
Just use the local.
it has to be below?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it has to be below because since it's referencing tasks, if it's not defined like already, then but I can just
You can try it.
I'll see if
It should work because it's a function. Not work.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
never mind.
I'm a bit rusty with my Python, but I think it's because it's a function that references a variable, a global variable. So anywhere you put the variable, it should work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Does anyone else have other questions?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, sorry. Usually our lecture are like in the halls that have like a projector, but I don't know why they gave us this room this time.
Is this big enough or do you want bigger?
It's good.
Okay. So yeah, just to reiterate, this decorator is just defining the endpoint. So then basically our, okay, let me make this bigger as well. All right. Basically, this would be our URL with the endpoint at the end, adding onto our URL. And then once this endpoint is called, it calls this function get tasks and it returns whatever this function is returning. Yeah, so now we can move on to the next endpoint, which is creating a task. So we can use the same endpoint, but since we're creating a task, we have to change the method to post. And this is how you kind of signify that it's a post method. Let's see. And then now we can define the function, create task. Yeah. So creating a task means that we need to have some sort of input and we get that input through the body. So for example, like the body could look like this. So it'd be like a JSON object, right? So we'd have description and then this would be the task. Like this would be the input that we're trying to get through the body.
Done.
No, done is like immediately false.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So basically, we're just creating a task with a description, and once you create a task, the done like variable is immediately false, like it's not done by default. So basically, to get this body, it's JSON.loads request.data. And then we can get the description by getting the key description. So body is basically this dictionary, right? So in order to get the actual description, get all eggs, we need to call this key, which is description. And then to create the task, we need to keep count of the number of tasks. So we're gonna have this global task ID counter. And then we're gonna bring this into this function as a global variable. And then now we can create our new task, and each task is a dictionary object. So this is the same format as here. You can see here. We're just creating a new task. And we know the new task ID because we have this task ID counter that we're keeping track of. So that is going to be the new ID. And then we can set the new description or the description to this description that we just got from the body. And then our done is going to be false since we just created this task. And then now we just need to add this task to our database, basically. So to do that, we just have to define the key and then assign that to the value, which is task. So the key here is task ID counter, which if we're creating a brand new task, that would be 3. And then it would just add a task with key 3 with whatever like value with whatever like task we just created with the input description. And then now we have to increment task ID counter by 1 just to keep track of how many tasks we have. And then finally, we have to return this task. So it's like basically convention to return whatever task you're creating, getting, obviously, updating or deleting. So we have to return this. So we're gonna use JSON.dumps again to format it a task. And does anyone know what status code we'd use? Before we used 200 when we're getting all the tasks, but now we're creating a task. So does anyone know what status code we would use? Yeah.
201.
201, correct. So 201 is when we're successfully creating a task. So if we try this, we can create a new request, create task, and you would change this to post because we're creating a task. And then it would use the same URL. But now,
It went back.
now we need to have the body, so you can, this is like in a raw format. So you can see here, I kind of like had the body here, I can copy. So this would be the input that you would give in the URL. And then if we send this, you can see the status code is 201, and then it returns the newly created task. So the ID is 3. If you create a new task, the ID would be 4 and then 5, etc. And then if you get all the tasks again, you can see that all our newly created tasks are in our database, basically. Okay, are we good so far? Yes.
Nice. Ask like what JSON.loads request has to do.
So this is basically getting the data from the request, and that's like basically just the body. So this basically just returns this body. Oh, yeah, basically returns this body. So then from the body, we can get the description by just calling the key, which is description.
To clarify, like this is what Flask does. Flask takes like the body we gave it and they attach it to this variable they already made for us, request.data. And then we just take that data and then we load it as a JSON. That's why we can do like description equals body description, because what we get from here is already a JSON format, nicely packaged for us by Flask. And then we just have to use it.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Question. Like, how are you getting?
The URL. Oh yeah. So when you run like python app.py, it says running on this, and this is basically your local host URL. So you can copy this into your Postman here, and then you can add on whatever like endpoint you are testing. Yeah. Did you have a question?
Yeah, sorry, do you mind like? A little bit, oh. So the first time we created the dictionaries, is it just like to initialize the values? Like right at the.
This one?
Yeah, the 2 keyboard.
Yeah.
Is it just like initially?
Yeah. We're just like seeding our database, is how you'd say it fancily, but we're just putting some data there so it's already there. Like this is there.
But we don't necessarily.
You don't have to.
need it.
You can keep it empty.
Yeah. It's just to see like the tasks, like when we're testing the get tasks. Yeah. But once you like restart the Python app.py and then you go back and try to get all the tasks, like before we had all of these newly created tasks, if we restart the server, we go back to the start, like we go back to the seeded data. Okay.
We'll actually solve that problem like later on in the course, how to persist data. Because right now the data is still like not saved anywhere because our database is like a dictionary. So yeah.
Okay, so now we're gonna get task by ID. So like before, we're gonna have this decorator, and instead of just keeping it as tasks, we want to get the ID somehow. But we don't want to get the ID through the body because the body is for getting input, like pretty large input. And since the ID is just like a number, it's just an integer, we can just pass that through the endpoint itself. So to do that, we can use these like pointy brackets, and then we define the data type of our input. So since ID is a number, we can use int, and then this is just the name of whatever like input we're getting through this URL. And then don't forget the slash. And then now we can define the function get task by ID. And then remember to include that same name that you had in your URL in the argument when you're calling the function, because you actually need to be able to access that task ID. And then we can actually try to get the task ID from our dictionary here that we have at the top. So we're going to use task.get task ID. So if you saw previously, like to access an item in the dictionary, you can also use you can also use this method. So these two would return the same thing if tasks like has that task ID. But the reason we're using .get is there's a possibility that the task does not exist. The task ID does not exist. For example, we have 1 and 2, but if we call 100, then there's that doesn't exist, right? So this task ID would just raise an error, and we don't want that. We want to like cleanly package that error and then forward that to the front end. So basically .get, if it doesn't exist, it'll just return none. So then task would just be none. But then if you use this method, it would raise an error, and then yeah, we would get a 500 status code. Anyways, yeah. So that's why we're doing that. And then so now we need to check if the task does not exist. So if the task is none, then we have to return an error to the front end. So this is also a JSON.dumps. And then we can format this error like in a nice way. So we're returning a dictionary here, and then the key is called error, and then the value is also a string task not found. And then does anyone know what the status code would be in this case? Task not found. 404, yes. Yeah. And then now we know that the task definitely does exist, so we can just return that task.dumps task and then 200. So if we go ahead and create a new request, so here I have the URL tasks, and then now I can input whatever ID I want to get. So for example, task ID 1, I can just send that, and then you can see that it returns that exact ID that I want. But if I, for example, want task ID 100, we get a 404 not found. And then you can see the error clearly that it's not there. Yeah. Any questions so far? That was pretty simple. Okay, update task is next. So same thing, we have our decorator, we're gonna have tasks, and then we need to access a specific task, so we're gonna have the same thing, int task ID, just to grab the task ID from the URL. But this time our method is, does anyone know what method this would be? We're updating a task. Actually, no, it's going to be put because we're not creating a task, we're actually just updating. So that would just be put. But yeah. And then we can do update task using the task ID. So make sure that it's the same name as what it's said in the URL. And then we can just basically copy like what we have here. If it doesn't exist, then we throw an error or return an error. And then we're also going to be getting some sort of input through the body because we need to know what we're actually changing. So we're gonna do the same thing, JSON.loads request.data. And then now we have to actually change this task. So we're gonna take the description of the task that already exists and then set that equal to the new description through the body. And then do the same thing with the done value. And then just return this. We return the newly updated task. And then this would also be status code 200. So we're checking if the task that we're updating exists. If it exists, then we're getting the new information, the new updated like information that we want to update to the task. And then this body description is the new description that we got from the input. And then we're just setting that to the current task description and do the same thing for the done like value. And then just returning that new task. And then we can just create a new put method, update task. Yeah, and then like before, we have the ID of the task that we want to change. And then in the body, we're going to add like this new description. So
You need a comma.
oh,
Yeah. And true is lowercase for JSON. Yep.
okay. Yeah, so this would be like an example body input. And then if we send that, we get a 200 status code and it returns the new updated task, which is we updated to throw an egg and we updated done to true. So if we get all the tasks here, you see it changed to throw an egg. And then the second one is start studying, which is false. If we change that task as well, we can get the task again, and you can see that it also changed to throw an egg. Yeah. So does this function make sense as well? Any questions? Okay, perfect. Okay, do you want to do the last one?
Sure. Also, by the way, for the update task, use put here, right? But actually using post here would also be fine because both put and post, they take in a body, they get information along with the URL, right? So if you use post there, it will still work because you're still getting a body, but in reality, put is the right one to use. Yeah. I think in like previous years we used post because like I don't actually know why we use post in previous years, but yeah, you can use
It's
put
like
or post.
convention to use put.
Yeah, it's use convention, but post also works. Okay, so for delete task, this is actually delete task by ID. It'll be the same thing. You want to have your decorator like this. I'm just gonna copy it over. Um, and here you can actually see like so far what we've done. You can see how we're getting information from different sources. Like we can get information in the route itself, like in the integer you put inside the URL, and you can get it from the body. In this case, we're just gonna get the task ID from the URL because this is one ID. So we're just gonna get task ID, and the methods I'm just gonna set to delete. That's enough for the decorator, and then I'm going to find a new function, the task by ID. Also, this function, you can name it anything because it will just call, like once you hit the route, it will run any function underneath it. So you can name it whatever you want. But this is just so it looks nice, basically. And then here, I'm gonna make sure to put this in here so we can use it inside the function. And here we're gonna try and get the task first and see if it exists. So it's the same thing again as this. We're just gonna grab this. First, we try and find a task. If the task does not exist, then we will return task not found with 404. And if it does exist, our objective here is to delete it. So we're just going to do delete tasks of the key task ID like this. So we're just going to delete it from our dictionary, and that should like remove it. And this is this convention. When you delete something, you also want to return what you deleted, just to have like one more reference, give it to the client. So you're just going to do the same thing, return. You're just going to return this. Just going to return a task back, and say that you deleted it basically. And yeah, that's it for the delete. So if I save this and let's try and test this, make a new quest, delete task by ID, and I'm going to make this a delete. So right now, let's check what task we have actually. We have these two, stop procrastinating and start studying. And if you're wondering why these changed from the previous one, is because right now we're running a live server. So as I'm editing code and as I'm saving, class will actually restart. You can see it restarted here. So when it restarts, all our data is gone, like we showed this now. That's why our data is stuck with the original one. So this is what data we have. And let me try delete number one. Delete task by ID, and we're going to delete number one. I'm just going to send this. And we got the response back. We delete this thing. And if I do get task again, we should only have number two. Yep. Only has number two.
You have a question?
Question?
For the method before this delete one,
Yeah.
why do you not have to update tasks?
You mean like what do you mean by update task? As in
TASKS. Like, does it automatically or like I might be
Wait, where?
oh. Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, so here we're only that's a good catch actually. I think that's correct, right?
What is this?
He's asking why we're not updating the original task dictionary because it's with an S, right?
yeah.
Let's actually see if that's a,
Because we're getting the task from the dictionary already.
oh, we're getting the object, yeah.
Yeah, we're getting the object, so then we're just changing the object. But then when we change the object is still inside the tasks.
So like when we run this method, then like some like front end thing will like change the dictionary before we go through this like method.
No, the dictionary like stays within the backend, but we're getting the specific task in the dictionary. For example, if we get the first task, it'll just return like task is just equal to this, right?
Right.
So then here we're just changing the description like directly in that object, in that first task object. And
It's not obvious like actually.
yeah, it references the actual object, the actual task object. Yeah. No worries. Wait, that's a good
That's a
question.
good question. Yeah, any other questions? Nope. No questions? Okay. So that's like the first full backend with CRUD functionality. We have get all tasks. We have like right here, we have get all tasks, we have create a task, we have get task by ID, we have update task and delete a task. Is it the documentation?
Wait, try to delete it again.
Delete everything?
Delete one again.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and one more thing. If you delete the same thing again, we already deleted it. If you delete it again, is gonna have task not found. That was just what we built in the check to find these kinds of errors right here, these 3 lines. Yep.
Yeah. And then one last thing, this will be graded in your assignments, but make sure to have documentation. So basically this like 3 like quotation marks is just to like define a comment. So you can just say like create a task with given description and then not done is default. And this is basically giving the client an idea like super quickly what that endpoint is doing. So make sure to have these in each of your endpoints when you're submitting your assignments because this is part of your grade, like part of the grading scale. Yeah. I think that should be it. And then we're also asking you to upload your Postman collection in your assignments. So if you go to the 3 dots here and then more, you can just export it as like a JSON. Yeah, like export it as a JSON and then just submit that as well, like alongside your code. Yeah, so that's like pretty much it. Yeah, does anyone have any last questions before we get into the Kahoot? Yes.
The assignment once.
Oh yeah, so we're gonna release, I mean, the assignment's already out in the textbook, but we're releasing the CMS like submission thing like tonight. But it's it's due next Monday.
The assignments are like on our textbook here. If you go to routes, and then you can look at the assignment here. We have the starter code, which is like what we started with. That was exactly the starter code. It'll just give you like the bare bones imports, requirements, and then you can get started and build Reddit. The first assignment is Reddit. And we have the API spec here. The API spec is just what your client wants, like what we want in your backend. So if you look at this, you can actually see you have a bunch of suggestions here, like advice, and then expected functionality. So we're just giving you like example request, like get API post, and it should return something like this. So your task is to look at whatever we want here, like the documentation, and then build the backend based off of these input output basically.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
if you need any help, our office hours this week is on Zoom. So look on the ed post. We have all of the Zoom links there. And then you can also ask us after class if you have other questions.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then if you want to task, because this is what we'll also use to test your assignment, you can download this PA1 test.py and actually run that to check if your code passes a lot of the tasks. But however, this is not the entire grading scheme. We also have, like what Lauren said, we have documentation. We grade that as well. We also grade some other things on the like manual use cases. Yeah. So
Yes.
Wait, how do you, for the test, do you put it in the same folder as the?
As SRC, yeah.
and then there are also these there are also challenge tasks. If we go into API spec again, this does have, right? This does not have. Oh, this one does not have. Yeah, but in future assignments, we have like challenge tasks where you can earn extra points. Those are, wait, I think, is it here? Oh, here, these are the challenges. Yeah, so we have like tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 if you want to earn like extra points. These are generally harder and we might not have taught it in class. So the base API spec, most of that is literally what we did in class, but for Reddit. So you just have to change a couple things. You can rewatch our YouTube video and code along us if you want to do that as well. But the challenges, these might involve like sorting and stuff like that if you're interested in more challenges. Yeah. Okay, let's do the code. Are there any more questions?
Can we get the final code for the?
Oh, the final code.
Just rewatch our YouTube video, I think.
Oh, those are.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we uploaded our last lecture on YouTube, and that's like available through the textbook as well.
Yep. And stop recording. Okay, that's it.